Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, let's do a little bit of day 3 recap for the Pro Circuit event on Lake Champlain. If you guys haven't watched the other 2 videos, day 1 and 2, go check those out. Those are, pretty good videos. Had a lot of great fish catches in those. If the first day was 18.5 pounds, which put me in the top 25. And then the next day, even though, 16.5 pounds sounds like a good bag, I dropped all the way down to 44th, but still within the top 50 cut to make the 3rd day. So I was pretty happy with that. And yeah, so going into the 3rd day, my plan at this point, a lot of the pressure was off. We made the cut, and now we just needed to make up a lot of ground. And the only way to do that is to really catch, those that like, bag in the 20s. Like, not even just 20 pounds would get me in the top 10. You're more or less looking at like 21.5, 22 pounds. I don't even know if that would have done it because everybody was so consistent. So I just wanted a big bag, and from what I had seen all week long, I usually love to fish for largemouth, but the largemouth really weren't good enough for me to feel like I could go there and they'd even be part of a 20-pound bag. So I decided on the 3rd day to focus just on smallmouth, and I knew I was going to have to mix it up a little bit because the area that I was fishing, there was 2 things that you could do. You could fish the shoals, the rockier areas on the perimeter of this big, large bay area in, below Missisquoi there, or you could go drift the flats. And so I had both of those. In the first 2 days, I was able to fish the shoals. I was able to fish specific little locations and fish high percentage areas to catch fish. And I didn't have to like drift around a long time to be able to relocate fish. I did a little bit of that the first 2 days, especially the 2nd day. I did a little bit of that where I would go out and drift. And there was a lot of guys that did well doing that. Including a lot of the guys that did really well in this tournament, and but I was having so much success targeting fish around those high percentage areas, so I decided to stick with that for the majority of the time, the first 2 days. But the 3rd day, I knew that I'd probably have to mix in some drifting around, which wasn't too exciting for me because it's just kind of a needle in a haystack type deal, and you really need to be able to locate the right drifts. Going into this day, I knew that I was going to start on my shoals, fish those high percentage rocky areas. I still had 1 school of fish. It was like 20 giant smallmouth. I'm talking 4+ pounders that I had only caught 3 fish off of the first 2 days, but every single time I did, it was a major upgrade for me. The 2nd day, I think it was like a 4 1/4, and so and the first day was right at 4 pounds each. But anyways, so 3rd day, let's get into it. Let's get this started. Alright, so first off, I'm sorry for the camera angle. Again, day 2 I had to use this camera angle, but Champlain's just so big and it gets so rough that I couldn't put the GoPro on the YOLOTech light post. It's just too much, too much weight kind of thrown around in really rough waves, so I ended up suction cupping it to the console. So we're starting here around my shoals, my rocky areas. I think right now I'm throwing a chatterbait and we're hooked up. Easy as that. You're seeing the condensed version, but I'd already been fishing for like an hour and a half and really have not caught anything. It was a very slow morning. Oh, just lost one. That was actually a pretty good sized fish. That was one of I think 5 that were like in the 4. That one was probably like 3.5, 3 3/4. But I lost a lot of fish this day that were in that 4.5 pound range, maybe even a little bit bigger. It was kind of a frustrating day. So here we are. chatterbait, half-ounce jackhammer, Brett's bluegill color, with a diesel minnows trailer on it. And you know, this is something I learned this trip is like, man, it's a good one, 3 1/4. Man, you can just cover water on these shallow shoals with chatterbait, just moving really fast. I think I had 20-pound tests, Tatsu, and a 7.3 medium heavy Versa, I know that, and a high speed gear ratio VLD10. Alright, this is one of the very few fish. We're still fishing these rocky areas, these rocky points and shoals, and now we're throwing the drop shot. I forget which color this particular fish came off of, but the majority of the tournament I was throwing the Z-Man trick shots in the deal. I was throwing the 3.5 inch version, and that was, you know, primarily what I was catching them on, because those fish were hyper focused on feeding on alewife, little tiny alewife, and so that's and obviously this is not a big fish, but I think I end up weighing this fish in. This fish haunted me all day. This is like a 1.5-pounder, and yeah, this I don't know if that was a 1.5-pounder, but I had, at the end of the day, I had a 1.5-pounder and a 2-pounder, maybe a 2 1/4, and those fish just killed my bag. All right, so now we're making a really important switch. We went from throwing the drop shot all morning, with, you know, some chatterbait peppered in, to fishing a jerkbait, and right off the bat I get confirmation that this is the right deal. And this was one of the many fish that I lost today on the jerkbait, unfortunately. You know, and I even swapped out the hooks, put Hayabusa trebles on there. They were really sharp. It's just these fish aren't hitting those baits very well. They're just, you know, these fish in this area had been so highly pressured. I would think that there's probably more pressure per square mile in this area than any other place. But anyways, I'm throwing that Berkeley Stunner, the deep version, the 112+1. It's like a white with an orange belly, and throwing on 10-pound test, Seaguar Tatsu, and I think that, yeah, 7.3 medium action Versa series, and I believe a 7.2 to 1. Oh no, 8.1 to 1 VLD10. So after we got that bite, it's just kind of, you know, you know, a pretext here. After I got that bite, I ended up going back out and drifting, where I'd been drifting all morning with the drop shot, but really not catching anything. Those fish would follow it all the way down, and you'd never get bit. But once I started getting bit on the jerkbait, I went out and immediately started getting bit. And I'm really sorry for the camera angle, because a lot of these fish I end up you know, landing on the back of the boat, and you never even see the fish. That was like I think that was like one of the 4-pounders. Maybe not. That one actually might have been a 2.5-pounder. Jeez, man, this was a big fish. This was a big one.
Now we're cooking with gas. Figured it out.
I don't think my biggest. No, this wasn't my biggest.
There we go. That's a 3.5.
But now we're getting up into that 4 1/4 range. This is a 4 1/4 right here. And it was within minutes of getting out there. Like that light bulb went off. Like, I'm seeing fish, and you know, out there drifting around, but I wasn't able to get them to bite on the drop shot like I had been able to get them to bite. So I went out there, fished a jerkbait. This is 14 foot of water. Oh my gosh, this fish right here hit right next to the boat. This is a big one. That was like a 4 3/4. but I had plenty of these where they just, that one I saw, that was one of those big ones, one of those real big ones. He ate right next to the boat, got hooked, and then just pulled off. So frustrating, man. Is that it? Whoa. All right. That was my day. I mean, this was a very short recap because, you know, I didn't end up catching that many solid fish. I caught a lot of like tiny little rats out there on that flat, but as far as big fish goes, most of my opportunities were missed. I ended up losing, I thought it was 5 big ones on the jerkbait. Actually, it was 1 big one on the chatterbait that you guys saw, and then I lost 4 big ones of the 6 bites I got on the jerkbait, and those were all really big fish. Most of them I saw visually, and there was one that was just a giant mark that I actually thought was like some kind of carp or something, you know, a big drum, because there was a lot of these big fish that were just kind of lumbering around, swimming around. Well, this one decided as soon as the bait hit the water to come up, and it was a giant mark, and I leaned back into it, and I mean, it felt like a giant, and it ended up pulling off. So I don't know what size that fish was, but all I know is that the mark was very indicative of one of the bigger fish that I had caught that week, all week. So anyways, that is day 3. We ended up catching 16 and a quarter, I think it was, something around there. And again, it was killing me. All I needed was a couple more 3-pounders, and I would have had, you know, a good, you know, a real good bag. You know, I would have had that 19-pound range, because I had I would have needed like a 3.5 pounder to get to 19 pounds, but I had a 1.5 pounder, tiny little rat, and a 2.25 pounder. And so if I had, you know, caught a few just decent, you know, smallmouth, it would have been a good day. But you know, when you're fishing for smallmouth, you're going to have losses. You're going to have those fish that come off, and you're going to have days that you catch fewer than you lose. And that's kind of how this day went. But you know what? As frustrating as that was, I was happy to be able to kind of recover from a very, very slow morning. It took me half of the day to figure out this jerkbait bite. I didn't really fully, you know, understand it until I think like 11 o'clock. And at that point, I mean, you don't have a whole lot of time to recover. So if I had figured that out earlier in the morning, like 8 or 9 o'clock, I think that we would have been able to recover nicely, because we even missed that good morning window bite, because it got tougher in the afternoon, at least for me. But yeah, that was it. It was a clutch move, moving over to the jerkbait and getting those fish to react, as opposed to giving them something that they could kind of, you know, look at and you know, discern whether it was real or not. You needed something that they would just have to make a decision right then and there to hit it, and that's what the jerkbait did. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure that you drop any comments below if you have any questions about this fishing day. If you guys are fishing the Toyota series, I wish you good luck out there for the Toyota series. I wish I was fishing there with you, but I'm just chilling on vacation now, so I'm happy with that too. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water.